Oh, hello. Welcome to the Against the Echo podcast. I am your host, Luke Barnes, and I'm joined as ever by the Nick Good. We're doing a pop culture episode. We're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Did Nick like it? Woo! We're going to talk about that. What's he going to give it a review? Oh, you'll be surprised. We also talk a little bit about Marvelous Miss Maisel. Not too much, just a little bit. We talk about Nick is playing the new Star Wars game, which is called Jedi Survivor. I hope. Did I get that right during the actual recording? Again, tune in and find out. So, grab that cup of tea, sit back, put those headphones on nice and tight, turn up the volume, and listen to Nick and I consistently okay talk about many things. Episode, Nick, our favourite pastime, talking about pop culture shiz. Yeah. So we've got a couple of things to talk about. I think we've got one big thing to talk about because somehow the stars have aligned and we've both seen the latest Marvel flick at our local Cinemaplex. So we both saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. For anyone who's listened to our MCU podcast many moons ago, and actually probably a couple of other podcasts, because we talked about James Gunn on the DC stuff on some other pop culture ones. I really liked the first volume of Guardians of the Galaxy. I wasn't a huge fan of the second volume because I thought it was very similar to the first volume. And I think going into this, although I knew it was going to be a bit darker, I didn't really expect much of a difference. And I also thought because James Gunn probably during filming this had already been earmarked for DC, I wasn't sure if it was going to go out on a high or if it was just going to kind of go over whimper. And obviously there's a bit of negativity because Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania didn't do that well, even though I thought it was actually pretty good. You saw that, didn't you? We talked about that, haven't we? No, you haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it. It's on Disney Plus today.
It's next week, Wednesday.
Wednesday. So I'll watch it then. I don't think I'll enjoy it. I haven't enjoyed an Ant-Man film really.
So. It's a shame because we were just becoming good friends.
That's fine.
Anyway, we have both ever seen this, and I really liked it. And Nick also
loved it.
What? Oh my god! Podcast breaks records for this announcement. Yeah. Hey, pretty good. Just to put into context, this film I was supposed to see it way earlier than I did. And my wife and I, we don't get much time to go to the cinema in the evening, so we have to plan it when our kids are at school or nursery. And we made this plan anyway. As Nick will know, many times when I make plans, they get changed because like one of the kids is sick or whatever. Anyway, we booked in to go to the cinema, and about half an hour before we were going to sit down, we got a phone call from my daughter's school saying that she was poorly. So Yannicka and I went to go and get her. We were both gutted that we weren't going to go and see it. And then turns out she was actually absolutely fine. It was like the boy who cried wolf. So we like flung her into our to my sister-in-law. And then I was at the cinema. No one else was in the screen, just me. And then Yannicka made it 10 minutes after the film had started. So we got to see it. So that's the background behind that, Nick. Just so you know why this film was even more important. Because it's important to me because I actually saw the first one on my honeymoon with my wife. Nice. She was like, fucking loves Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so a little bit of background. Don't know why I said that, but hey, maybe people will enjoy our podcast more if I tell a heartwarming story such as that.
Yeah.
The essential of the story is just fuck you kids. The cinema is more important, right?
Yes.
No, not really. Kids are the best. I did wink just then. Anyway, so you loved it, Nick.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. Amazing. Why did you love it? Tell me.
Well, I really wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it. And I was fully prepared because Ant-Man is the only MCU film I've not seen at the cinema. And so I was fairly set that I probably wouldn't see Guardians 3 at the cinema either, because I was like, I could skip it. But then you mentioned on our last podcast that you were going to see it, and I was like, well, I'll make an effort then. So on the bank holiday Monday,
I appreciate that.
After said king was crowned, I was like, I'm going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy. And yeah, I loved it pretty much from the off. I think part of it was, I think what I said to you was that it feels like I think it's James Gunn's best film, because it feels in the same way we were just talking about Dogma on the previous podcast, that that felt like a combination of all the things Kevin Smith had done, and I think this feels like the combination of everything that James Gunn has done. It feels like there is a hell of a lot of confidence on screen in the terms of story that he's telling, but also it doesn't tell you any other story to do with the MCU. It is literally just Guardians beginning to end. And I think that really works in its favor, because you get the weirdness, you get the quirkiness, but you don't have the setup for what's next in the big picture. It was just purely, this is it. And it's a really well told story, like framing it from Rocket's point of view. I'm a huge Raccoon fan, so it was hitting me hard. And I just thought it was really smart. It was funny in the right places.
Because it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny like I mean, you'll see with Quantumania, and obviously there's other films. Like I think it happened a lot with Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, where a lot of the comedy was like really pushed on.
Yeah,
like it's supposed to be. There's some characters in Quantumania which are just there for comedic relief,
mm-hmm.
and I think you probably had that in Guardians of the Galaxy a little bit, because Rocket was so funny in the first one, right? Rockets and Quill's interactions, and Drax and everything like that. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, they just turned that up a bit too much for me. Whereas this, like the laughs were just in the right places, and also because every bit Rocket was in from the start to until really the end was all very emotional, right? Even at the end it was emotional, but you got a couple of little zingers in there a little bit. But it's it kind of just feels very different to 1 and 2. But everyone, like you said, everyone is so comfortable in their role now. It doesn't need that sort of jokiness all the time. It's like, okay, now it's just something I actually thought when I watched it. What I thought about you was that you always mention about stakes, right? That's what you feel like these villains, they don't believe, like they'll make mistakes. But this was like full of it, wasn't it? Because not only did you have like, is Star-Lord's got like this conflict going on inside of him, because he's, he doesn't talk about Earth, but he knows there's something there that he's missed, and also he's got the Gamora thing going on, which was a little bit repetitive, I think, but also it kind of worked because there was a climax with the whole thing. And you've got Nebula, who's got her own thing going on as well, like how much she's been through, and then obviously Rocket is, a high evolutionary, is a bad guy. Like there's a lot of people saying like that is what Kang should have been in Ant-Man. Well, I actually think Kang is very good in Ant-Man. I think Jonathan Majors plays it very well, but High Evolution was the first time where it was like, this guy's like an absolute whack job. Like he is like he is gone. And I like the bit especially when Star-Lord says that he's so tired of like these fucking villains that just think they can go and destroy the universe. But High Evolutionary is quick to say like he's not trying to take over the universe. Like it's not his thing. Like he just wants to fix it, but like in the weirdest, most maniacal sort of way. I mean, he's a dick. But then, when he's like just disintegrating those animals and stuff, and the way he treats Rocket, there are some bits which are just, when Rocket's on his lap, and he's talking about the sky and everything like that, and he just grabs him around the back of the head. He's like squeezing his skull. Yeah. It's just like, fuck off, man. Like,
he is a scumbag.
Get off that raccoon.
Yeah.
And they're really good with making Rocket, the way Rocket talks. It's just, it's almost a bit too much, isn't it? When he's like mispronouncing his words.
Yeah.
So.
I
put a lot in there. Put a lot in that little speech I just gave. So
it was good. But you're right that like I thought that as well when I was watching it. I was like, they've it's the first MCU film in a long time where the stakes feel correct. Like it doesn't, and what happens feels correct. Like you genuinely don't know if anybody's going to come out of this film alive because the stakes are so high. And they sort of flip that on you a few times where you're like, this is it. Like Drax is gone or Rocket's gone. And you're like, that's just how it's going to be. And they're not. Like, obviously they survive, spoilers. But it does it really well where it tees those moments up to you because the stakes are that high that you believe that those things could happen. Like that, there's no kind of like, well, they're not going to kill him off because he's in the next 90 films. It's just there is a real belief that you're like, they could pretty much do anything at this point. And it's something that really reminded me of like, I'm sure people will really hate me for this or loathe me for it, but it reminded me a hell of a lot of like a Zack Snyder film. In the Zack Snyder's films are like purely just Zack Snyder, right? Like that is Snyder through and through. Like it or hate it, that is, you see a Zack Snyder film, you know it's a Zack Snyder film. And I think this is that, where it is James Gunn unfiltered in the best possible way, that it's like everything hits because he's been allowed to do every single thing that he wants to do, and he's not having to adhere to the bigger MCU or whatever. It's just, this is the story I want to tell, and this is how I want to do it. And it comes across like it feels like everybody's on the same page. Like literally everybody is kind of going, yeah, like for some people this is the last stab at it. They're like, yeah, I'm done, you know. Like Dave Bautista said he's out, and
yeah, Zoe Saldana said she's out as well.
Yeah,
I think the two things there that to pick up on from what you're saying is that one, I think that's where Quantumania suffers, is that they're trying to throw so much Kang in your direction. But I think Kang was probably the wrong villain. I think Ant-Man and Kang were the wrong mix. Although I like the dynamic between the two of them, I felt like that Kang was a bit too big for an Ant-Man film. I think Ant-Man and Quantumania would work with maybe just a different villain, but you'll have to see it and see what you think yourself. But I still think it works overall, but yeah, you'll see. But also when you say about like the fact that some of these characters might make it, I generally thought in the cinema that Peter Quill was going to die. I was so sure it would be such a ballsy thing for them to do. That I thought he's been, although it's been like Rocket's story a lot of time, it has also been Peter Quill's story just as much as it's been Rocket's story. But it'd be just like him to like everything he's been through and like what he's done, and obviously he's owned up to some of his stupid errors in like Infinity War, but it was like such a good jump from the ship, and then it just looked like he was fucked, right? And I completely forgot like someone like Adam Warlock could just turn up and like save him. But I thought he was going to die, and I thought that would be the end of the film. Like it would be like, I was just quickly running through what would happen. It'd be like Gamora going to Earth, and although she didn't love him that way, she would go and visit his grandpa and like be like, your son was a hero, basically. That's where my head was going. But I was glad that because he's obviously, there are some characters that are obviously going to stick around, because it said at the end, didn't it, he would be in. So like it looks like Star-Lord could be in. I mean, Rocket and Vin Diesel. I mean, Bradley Cooper, sorry, and Vin Diesel. I mean, they could keep doing it. Cause... They could keep going because it's just their voices. Although it's a lot of work, they could do it, and I'm sure Sean Gunn would be happy to bob around in a green suit outside of being involved in most likely Superman Legacy and a bunch of other stuff. So, and he popped up in Miss Maisel, didn't he?
He did, yeah. That was a good episode as well.
Good episode, yeah.
Strong episode.
So, but yeah, so I generally thought he was going to go, and I think that's why this film is so good, because it is a bit darker, and like you said, because it's got no attachments to the MCU, which I think we all needed a bit of a break from. You know, didn't need to lead someone. That's Phase 4 was so heavy on like
just set
it's all this multiversal stuff. Who's going to go where? What's going to go where? What's the next bad guy going to be? And obviously, we know the next big villain is Kang. Probably going to get recast, isn't he? It's not looking that good, I don't think, for Jonathan Majors. Also, I saw a lot of people saying that guy who plays High Evolutionary should be recast as Kang, and it should be a variant. Because he was bloody brilliant. He was really good.
He was really good in Peacemaker as well, actually.
He was really good in Peacemaker, but you think there are some performances, obviously, where he's just... I saw an interview where he's saying, like, how did you do, like, obviously you've got to treat these animals badly and stuff. And obviously he's like, well, half the time I was just looking at Sean Gunn.
Yeah.
But he really fucking throws himself into it. Those bits
Yeah.
outside the cages and stuff where he's like foaming at the mouth and everything. And he really went for it, and he really like let loose. And I think there's a lot of villains in the MCU that are just there, just like, think about Malekith and stuff, and like Darkhold and everything like that. And they're just kind of like, it feels like a Buffy villain.
Yeah, I mean, like even like Hela in like Ragnarok, like she's nowhere near as intimidating as she could have been. Like it's the MCU, I think, has always kind of had a bit of a villain problem in the way that they kind of do it is it sort of became like villain of the week but it was like villain of the movie in that it was just, it doesn't really have a consequence.
Because sometimes that has to happen though, right? Sometimes you have to have those villains just to get like, because you need a thing. But the nice thing about the MCU is it should be the villains. Those kind of villains should be saved for the TV shows, right? But the big ones, there's such a huge catalogue of villains, right?
Mm-hmm.
That each film should feel like each villain has like the high evolutionary consequence factor. That's what I think as well. You should be able to, especially this far along now. You really think like eventually, like if they're gonna keep this thing purring along, like they need another Thanos, they need a Doctor Doom or something that's just really gonna just fucking go nuts, like and really pull it apart. And that was nice about this film, that it was so out of that whole machine. It just felt like even the end credits would have been the easiest thing in the world just to put like just throw in like Loki again or something. But it was good that they kept it to this is just Guardians. I mean, that new Guardians lineup doesn't look fantastic, but it's still cool because it's still, I mean, Adam Warlock. They could do a lot with Adam Warlock because he's not going to be a child forever, is he?
So, no, yeah. Like this felt like he was probably the only thing that felt a little bit shoehorned in that it was like you'd set him up another film, you got to have him here. But he is.
He did his bits well, didn't he?
Yeah,
Paul Pilter did really well.
Yeah, so. Aaron Poulter plays it really well, and he's kind of the character that they can grow in another thing, because he's not the villain of this film. Like I think it would have been easy, and it probably would have been felt less interesting if he had been the villain of the film. Like if they'd just gone Adam Warlock's villain, fine. But yeah, there was something about the High Evolutionary that was just intense. It was like, whew. And I think because it was so attached to Rocket as a storyline, that's your stakes as the villain, is that it's just like, I'm stopping a world-ending threat. It's like, this person is hurting a friend of mine, and that's the stakes, is that it's about saving essentially one, which is Rocket. So I thought that was really good. And the other thing that like really hit me, like there was one line in particular where there's two things actually. So one was the fact that like when they did set up the like Star-Lord potentially dying thing, it's the fact that he runs back for the music. That was the thing where I was like, that would be like the perfect way for him to go. That was the thing, that it's not a person, it's like, it is the music and the importance of that to this trilogy. So I thought that was great. And the line, which I was like, that's a fucking great line, was Gamora's final line to him, where she's like, I bet we were fun.
And it was good
like,
as well.
It was so good that it was like, you haven't rectified that they've got back together or something like that, but you've acknowledged that she could kind of see what they were, even though she doesn't feel it. And I thought that was perfect. I was like, that is a really, really well-written, perfect kind of hard-hitting line that encapsulates kind of the end of this trilogy.
I think there's a lot of good things like that at the end. Like, I mean, even the "I love you guys" line from Groot, which it was actually Yannicka who cracked that as we were leaving the cinema. She was like, do you get it? I was like, I mean, I just get that. Like, I don't know. I guess I just get that they're saying like, it's just he's, just got a line. Like, I didn't really thought about that much. Yeah. And she was like, oh, but we all get him. I was like, yeah, we all get him. Like, yeah, we get him. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So literally, because I didn't think about it much during the film, like props to Yannicka for like
Yeah.
getting it straight away. But I didn't really think much of it. I was just like, oh, we just understood him. But it was like she was like, no, there's a significance. Like we've not understood him the whole time, right? And now we
Yeah.
do. I was like,
Yeah.
because Gamora obviously doesn't understand him, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
she does at the end. She's like, oh, it's just clicked.
Yeah.
So and that's really smart as well. And that's a pretty big. It's like Rocket. You've seen Rocket's bolts and stuff in the first film, right? When they're in the prison,
Yeah.
and then like he's hiding them away and he's embarrassed of them, and then he's just this insane raccoon who's very good at building things, and then to see that all come together, I really thought Chris Pratt was excellent as well. Like I thought he was good because he's got the comedy and stuff, and when Rocket was in trouble when he was like doing the the not surgery but like uploading the information and stuff like that and screaming and stuff, it was all good, and
it's great.
I think it took me like an hour or so to come away thinking that was bloody good. Like I think because I went with Yannicka and we the bits that were funny, especially in the first one, we're kind of looking for that like laugh that Rocket. Yannick always talks about like when Rocket says to Quill in the first one when he calls him a raccoon, and then he's like, "What's a raccoon?" Like that, it's like funny shit when you first see it. So it's it's just a lot darker and it worked. It really did work, and I really hope this is kind of a stepping stone because I have read a lot now that they're going to try to, like Loki season 2 is quite serious as well, and they have to reevaluate now, especially with DC on the back of they're coming in now. James Gunn is now that, so this has been successful. Although I just read like it's done 365 million, so I mean it's on track. It's already gone over its budget, but I was a bit surprised by that number. I thought it was going to be a bit higher, actually.
Yeah, I guess.
I know it's a week.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's been out in China and stuff yet either. So I also really like the soundtrack. Again, I think every Guardians film has a very good soundtrack, but I think most people look forward to the opening bits now because we had Chris Pratt in the first one dancing, or Star-Lord dancing, and then we had Baby Groot dancing in the second one. This one I thought set the tone for the film very early on with Rocket going around to Radiohead's Creep.
Yeah.
And like just him muttering the words, like it's not even like that significant, but and then just obviously they are surrounded by a bunch of weirdos, but it's not about that, is it? It's like Rocket, that song is probably a song that he's listened to loads of times thinking about him.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite opening of a Guardians film, just because like the others are good and silly and fun, and the first one was so unexpected. It was like, what?
The first one was great. That was such a good
it was
I love that first.
But this one I was like, it's just pitch perfect. Like it was somber and it was weird and unusual, but you just didn't question any of the weirdness. It was just like, this is somebody who's got something that's gone on, and music is a way of them kind of processing it and thinking about it. And I really liked this opening. I thought it was great.
Felt like a video game, kind of. At the moment where you get like a good video game, like you got awards and stuff like that, and Arkham games. So it's like your credits are rolling up as you're like walking around, but you can't really do anything but like kind of like walk and look left and right and up and down. So, but I really like the opening. I really like sound. I really like the soundtrack overall. Also, I think all the cameos are really good as well. Like Nathan Fillion and everything like that. They don't ever stay their welcome at all. They just they're there. And I thought all those dialogue bits were really good as well. Like when when Mantis puts the suits in the bin, whatever it's called. So and then Nathan Fillion's talking with Star-Lord. It's like, I've got one of those. I've got like a special friend. You always feel sorry for Drax as well. I know that's his character, but I was very glad that they kind of got to the bottom of what Drax is.
Yeah, that was cool as well.
In this setting, because he's different in the comics, but he's in this universe. He's not that stupid in the first film. He's just really angry, right?
Yeah.
But then they play him down so much that you actually forget how strong he is.
Yeah.
So it was nice that they came to everyone got a good conclusion. Like you chop a Nebula, like Mantis got she's off on an adventure as well. You found like the way Mantis left it, like she's going to get like a spin-off TV show, right?
Yeah. Everybody was just left in a really kind of interesting place of like knowing as well that like Batista's done as Drax, it's kind of like, does that mean that they probably wouldn't visit nowhere again? Like,
Yeah, I think no. I think that's what they didn't. I think they've put the people in the places that they won't need to visit. Like they don't need to have the Ravengers again. So Gamora's off the plate. They don't need to go to nowhere again. So I mean, they could go to nowhere in the sense that ever there was a cosmic event, like there probably will be, that Nebula might show up.
Yeah.
But you don't need to see Drax, do you?
Yeah.
And then if they do anything else with the Guardians, again, like they could go to nowhere. They don't have to see Drax, but they, it sounds like those. If they do a Guardians film with the group that was left, then they could easily just do like an adventure, right? Like we said with the Mandalorian season finale, where they're back on like doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Or they come to Earth to help, because again, the end game is Secret Wars now, isn't it? So you can pluck Rocket out of that, and
yeah, sure.
You assume Star-Lord will probably be in some formation with the Avengers now. Like, he's still Star-Lord. He hasn't got any superpowers, but he's still got his mask and his blasters and his rocket boots, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think the future looked good for a lot of those characters. I'm very glad. Like, a lot of it had its conclusion.
Yeah.
And just happy with it, Nick.
Yeah, I just thought it was great.
Feels like we're recording an episode just about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but we're not.
No.
We can stop at any time and move on. Yeah. That's what it feels like. We have to like wrap this up and then we're done. But we should wrap up. But what would you say then out of 10? How would you give this film a rating?
I think for me,
for you, right?
It's like a solid like 8 or 9.
Yeah, I would give it an 8. I think 8 is where I would be.
Consistently okay. So it's certified.
Consistently okay. Certified, yes. Listen to a previous podcast for information on our new rating system. But it's I think it's really good. It really made me think like, man, MCU films, hey, this is why I come to see them, because it's like, because I've been pushing Guardians of the Galaxy quite a lot where I work in the comic shop, because we got these Epic Collection, which is the original run, like with the Yondu team and everything like that. And there's a lot of good stuff with Donny Cates and Alwig and everything. But I think there's a lot of people that probably wouldn't have even touched these comics before these films come out, right? Or even now, like maybe they're interested. But they're really good. It's a really good Marvel comic run, and I'm glad that it got to see the light of day, and I'm glad James Gunn got to finish his trilogy, because obviously he was off it for a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean,
I wonder how much they're thinking like that was a great way to end our relationship with James Gunn, because he'll be back one day, I'm sure. But
I don't know. I kind of don't want him to. Like, I feel like this is.
I don't want him to either. I think this is the best send off. But there's always a window, isn't there? Like he could be head of DC, but Jesus, he could. Imagine if that falls flat. Imagine if it's only going to take like three bombs for it to like
start to
not work out, and Jim Lee to kick his ass. But
yes.
I mean, it's ballsy for James Gunn, because he's writing or directing Superman Legacy, isn't it? So that's really going to set the tone for what. I mean, their thing is they're going to have a very big like Comic Con in like 2 years' time, aren't they? Because they'll have to have some other stuff to drop and stuff. So anyway, fair play to James Gunn. Very good. Very good. He made Nick like an MCU film. So that's all we can ask.
Yeah, which is rare, because it's been a minute since I've enjoyed one.
I haven't enjoyed one since Civil War.
I hated Civil War.
Why? It's good. So I watched it again recently. It's so damn good.
It's just not. It's just.
It is, Nick. It's right. This seems like a perfect time to move on. And what we will quickly do is we're just going to tell you a little something that we talked about on our podcast. But Nick and I and our good friend Harry have now launched a Kickstarter. Launched on the 11th of May. So we're a bit into it now. It's going well. We would appreciate anyone who likes us and enjoys comics to check it out. It is called Lone Tales. It's the first volume that we're going to do. It's combining 2 comics that we've released first issues to, but it finishes off both those stories. One's called Whistleblower, and one is called Odyssey. So there's a lot of creative minds that go into this, and there's loads of perks. If you check out Kickstarter, you can find it on our social media channels. There's some bits linked to the Consistently Pod Twitter account and Instagram. Also, Nick's social medias. What is your social media handle again, Nick? Goody.
Goody2212 on Twitter and Goody182. So
I am Luke B25. I deleted my Twitter account a long time ago, and I brought it back just for this. So if you just see a bunch of Lone Tail stuff, hey, that's me. So give it a look.
Yes.
Back it. You can there's digital tiers, there's physical tiers, there's special tiers, like a headshot tier where you can get your face, get a really cool zombie a zombie you made by a very
Yes.
talented Harry Hughes. So you can use it as an avatar or on a profile picture or whatever. I mean, that's the same thing. An avatar and a profile picture are the same thing.
Our favorite one is that somebody will use it as a dating profile. So if you are
Yes.
having a date with a guy or a girl and you know that they like zombies, we can make it happen.
We can make that happen for you.
Mm.
So the comics, like there's like sci-fi, horror, thriller, like those sort of things. So if you are interested, please just if you're not going to get it, you know someone who does like comics, then yeah, just give it a look. So it's up until, when's it finished, Nick? June?
Yeah, I think it's the 10th of June at 7:01 p.m. UK time.
So please, yeah, give it a look. We would appreciate all your loving support.
Yes.
Right.
Cool.
Moving on from that plug.
Yes.
What else is there to talk about, Nick? We haven't got long left on this dear episode, but what can we talk about?
So there's two things. One, I will do a quick fire thing because I've been playing Jedi Survivor, the Star Wars game.
Yes. And I will start my Twitch one day.
Yes, I'm still waiting for this, you know. I'm just hanging on the Twitch notifications when it says consistently pod's gone live. I'll be like, oh my God. But yeah, I haven't finished it yet. So I'm still working through it. I'm about 15, 16 hours in. And it's impressive. Like, I know it's had loads of technical issues, especially on PC. I've had a little bit of frame rate issues, but graphically it's super impressive. Story's cool. It's open world-ish. Sounds great. Score's awesome. I'm just enjoying it. It's cool. It's sort of hit at the time when I just feel like it's a really exciting time to be a Star Wars fan.
I was thinking this earlier, again, when I was at work and I was ordering some Star Wars comics. I was like, man, there's just so much good stuff out there now, isn't there? Like, I know we talked about the TV shows, and obviously you just mentioned the games, and like, the comics are really good. Like, I've been reading the Charles Soule Darth Vader run recently. It's just banging, so good.
It's just, it is part of that. It feels like it's kind of real, in this kind of like real resurgence of Star Wars, and Jedi Survivor is just doing something really interesting. It's really interesting from like a game point of view as well. I won't get too much into it because I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. But it feels like it's pushed like the Unreal Engine 4 to the absolute limit, in that it's doing like ray tracing and giving you 60 frames per second, which is like, I haven't experienced the game with both yet. You sort of toggle it on and off, but to see it doing both, I think is just how you get these visuals where you're like, this is mad. Like, this looks super impressive and immersive.
I mean, you wouldn't have thought there would be a game. Again, I've not played it, but I've seen the footage and stuff where you can. I mean, I haven't even played it remotely to give the lightsaber a go, but I can't believe there's a game that does so much with a lightsaber. Like, it feels like it seemed like such a long way off, like a few years ago, to get a game like that, which wasn't just like you can go like left to right, but you can twizzle it, throw it,
exactly.
all this shit.
Yeah, there's different stances.
I kind of just want to play it just to use the Force to push people off cliffs, because I've heard that's quite
it's cool,
quite relaxing.
Like throwing grenades back at droids and stuff, that's always fun. And if you want to go dark, you can pull somebody towards you and then shank them with a lightsaber, and that's
what I'll definitely be doing.
cool.
I will play the first one, All in Order. I will put it on our Twitch as well. Just one fine day. Still haven't finished God of War 2.
Right here.
I think I'm only like 4 hours into God of War 2. That's how far behind I am. I'm still in the snow on Red Dead Redemption 2, which is the first 5 minutes. Oof. That's what kids will do to you.
Yeah, at least you've got it all to catch up on, you know, as your kids get older.
That's the thing. There's no. I mean, we were talking today. It's unrelated, but so we're recording this on the 12th of May. So the new Breath of the Wild game came out today. We had a lot of art shopping. It all flew off, and everyone's like, "Are you going to get one, Luke?" Oh yeah. And I was like, you know what? No. So I've heard it's 80 hours long, ish, if not more. And I can tell you now, I won't even get an hour into it in the next like 6 months. I'm having another baby.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna happen. So I'm in no rush, and I feel like a lot of these things now there's a need, isn't there, to like I've got to do it now. I think I only need that like it's only a few games that will make me feel like Spider-Man 2 is going to be like a day one, like Last of Us, those sort of games I love, and often with films as well because I don't want spoilers. I feel like I can avoid game spoilers a lot easier than I can film spoilers. So, um, if I hadn't seen Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 3 by now, I would have probably started crying every night until I'd seen it. So, yeah, so cool. I'm looking forward to playing it. I'm looking forward to you telling me how good it is when you finished it.
Yes, I'll keep you updated when I do finish it. And see what it's like. I also there's something else that you can actually list. It takes forever, but it is like one of my favorite games now, story wise, is Cyberpunk. I finally played it, and honestly, the story, like just the writing on that game, is impeccable. Like, I can't. It is honestly amazing. Like the situations it puts you in, so like morally breaking that I was like, I don't know what to do. Like,
is it good now? Because it had a lot of issues when it launched.
Yeah,
it's
totally fixed.
A lot of people at work and a lot of people that I know love it, even when it was bad.
Yeah, totally fixed. Like, I played on PS5, ran at 60 frames per second. I didn't have any stuttering, nothing. Everything was smooth. Everything looked awesome. I think I had one bug, which was on a side quest, and it was just that somebody didn't sit in a car properly. But like, in terms of performance, that game just ran perfectly for me. I had like no problems. So I just experienced the story for what it is. And the story is just, it is genuinely one of the best stories I think I've experienced, because it's just so rich in storytelling. And there were so many points I just had on it where it would just put you in this dilemma of like, you've got to make a choice, and it's the consequences of that choice are really heavy. So yeah, it genuinely blew me away. I think it is some of the best writing on a video game.
Nice.
Yeah, so check it out at some point, because by the time you get to play it, it'll be a 10.
One day I will play it. It'll be like way in the future.
Yeah.
And Cyberpunk is actually real life.
That
is when I'll play Cyberpunk.
Yeah. Then you go, oh shit.
Was it 2077? Is it? Is that the
2077?
I don't know if I'll be alive then. Probably not. I don't know. I'll be on the edge. I'll be on the cusp.
Worth it.
Playing Cyberpunk on my PlayStation 5, which would be an artifact by then.
Yeah. Yeah, phenomenal.
I mean, another thing I've seen is I've seen more Marvelous Miss Maisel, but I feel like we talk about that every podcast, so we should build up. But the last episode was fantastic. It's the best episode so far. So, but
there was a lot of story.
How many episodes? Yeah, there is a lot. There's a lot going on, which is good because I think it kind of made the flash forwards make sense a bit more. But this is the last one to watch today? Is it? I think.
I can't remember if it's the finale today that's come out. Or
I don't know if it's the finale or penultimate one. I know there's only a couple.
Is there 8?
At least there's 1 or 2 left. Yeah, I think there's 8 in total. Yeah.
So I think today's 7. So next week will be finale.
So.
But yeah, that episode was great. The writing on it was really strong. That scene between the Susie and Midge and the
it was kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it, in a way? But it was a good nowhere. It was like, that's good. I like the fact that it's because they have to now. It is 2 episodes left. Actually, I remember saying it last week.
Cool.
But it's nice because now you got 2 episodes to see like, can they build that? Can they finish off like that relationship that was so good? And also you could see why it was so bad. Like the pieces were all there, obviously, but you can see because I said during the last pop culture episode that Mitch was a bit of a bitch, but you can definitely see why she distanced herself from
Susie,
from Lois Griffin, Susie.
There you go. Yeah, so. It was just great. It is. Yeah, it continues to just be awesome. There's something though that they haven't done yet that I think could be heartbreaking, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, the next time we record one, I think we probably would have seen
finale,
right? So we'll talk about like the whole season then, I guess, for those who are only tuning in for our Miss Maisel conversations.
Everyone. Yes.
All right. What else? Anything else before we leave everyone after our wonderful Guardians of the Galaxy 3 review? 8 out of 10, Nick, get it, guys. 8 or 9 out of 10. Can you fucking believe it?
8 or 9. Certified. as well.
Certified, yeah. Consistently certified.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening that didn't know, earlier today we dropped another podcast. We did another in-depth episode. We did Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which was very good times. So if you've been following our in-depth episode, and that episode dropped earlier today, so probably is that we'll do double drops a little bit more going forward. So we've done one the other week with Dogma and another Pop Culture episode, and the same with this. So yeah, you get a double dose of consistent and okay times. So yeah, so thanks everyone for listening. If you want to listen to more consistent okay podcasts, you can find us on YouTube and go through a whole back catalogue or anywhere where you get your podcasts. Just search for Consistent Okay Podcast. You can find us on social media at ConsistentlyPod on Twitter and Instagram. As we said earlier, please take a look at our Kickstarter. If you want to give it a push or a follow, or just go all in and go just get 15 retailer copies even if you're not a retailer, and go for it. And yeah, if you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, then you should go and see it while it's still in the cinema. And yeah, thoroughly good time, Nick. Thank you very much. Alright, take care everyone.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.